Welcome to the Anxious to Secure podcast. I'm Yula, your anxious attachment style coach. I'll help you to finally stop overthinking your relationship by overcoming your fear of being left by your partner. Thought by thought, action by action, now episode by episode. Why? So you can experience true, authentic, anxiety-free love and feel a lasting ripple effect in all areas of your life. Are you ready to become the best secure version of yourself? Let's go. When you know, you know. Welcome to Mythbuster Tuesday of the Anxious to Secure podcast, episode 18. I'm Yula. I'm so glad you're here. So, have you ever heard the phrase, when you know, you know? Anyone who's, I bet, on TikTok, following any relationship accounts, or even on Instagram might heard the phrase, and it might be deeply triggering for you. But maybe it also sounds very romantic, right? Like one day you'll just have this magical aha moment and everything will click into place. But how often does it actually work out like that? For so many of us, that expectation leaves us doubting. If we don't feel that immediate certainty, we start to wonder, is this even the right relationship? What if I'm making a mistake? And I get it because I've been there. For me, this was a huge deal when I started dating my current partner. I didn't have that Hollywood movie moment of really knowing right away. In fact, I had more doubts than ever before. Well, actually, there was a lie, because I had this extreme high when we started dating during our first months during 2020. But like at the end of 2020, after our honeymoon phase, when doubt started to, to spiral up more, then it was like bigger than ever before. And I never had anything, felt anything like this before in my relationships. And it wasn't because something was really wrong in our relationship. It was more because of my attachment system. And that was really, being triggered in that moment. And yes, we fought and we had communication problems and we triggered each other, but there wasn't anything really properly wrong with us. It was more like because of our different attachment styles, which were triggering each other, but I didn't know that at this time. And when you hear the phrase, when you know, this can be deeply triggering for you, and you think there's something really wrong with you and your partner in your relationship. I didn't know where this uncertainty was coming from at the time. What I realized was that certainty doesn't come before the work. It comes from doing the work, from choosing to lean in to the relationship, into trusting, into taking action and building something meaningful from being together, from making a decision, to make a decision to go all in instead of being in this half in, half out place. Because I was so scared and because I had all these doubts, the door was always kind of half open, and that was all happening kind of subconsciously for a long time. And this place of never really committing, of course, transferred over to my partner, because we're all like human beings of like energies and we can feel our energies. So he wasn't really all in either. And at some point we actually had a chat about it, and he told me, he felt my doubt and my insecurities. So he wasn't all in either. And this idea that you'll instantly recognize the one, and I'm going to put the one in air quotes because that can put so much pressure on people with an anxious attachment style, especially when the relationship doesn't fit that fairy tale right away, have a relationship anxiety, especially. When people say, when you know, they're talking about this magical lightning bolt moment where everything just clicks, like angels singing, the stars align, and suddenly you're like, oh my God, this is the one. He is the one. She's the one. They're the one. Sounds dreamy, right? But let me tell you, it's kind of a setup and it's all kind of bullshit. And sometimes it can be true, but there's a lot more, in between that, and it's not all that black and white. And also for some of us, that knowing comes from a huge comes from a huge emotional high and fireworks and butterflies and the I can't stop thinking about them moment. And you're like, this has to be it, right? But if you've got an anxious attachment style, that rush might be actually be your nervous system on overdrive. You're screaming like, oh my God, don't let go of them. They're your safety net, They're like your everything. You need them. You need them to stay alive. They are your everything. They are your entire world. That's why you cling onto them. That's why it feels a threat whenever something happens, it comes in the way of your connection, like a conflict, like an attractive colleague, anything. Here's the thing, like say love hormones like dopamine and oxytocin are working overtime in these moments. They make you feel amazing, like your whole world is buzzing. But if you're anxiously attached, that buzz is necessarily real love, right? Or connection. And we kind of know this already. It's your brain lightening up over the potential for safety and not actual safety. So it could be actually more a sign that there's some danger here. And this is trying to, keep you safe. And I'm sure you can relate that intense feeling feels so good and so addictive. But then when that high fades away, which always does, you're left spinning and you're triggering each other and you're like, wait, is this real? Why is now everything breaking down and why are we just fighting why is my partner now withdrawing and why is everything suddenly terrible? And why don't I feel like this anymore? And everything kind of breaks down. And that's your anxious attachment system freaking out, whispering like, if it doesn't feel intense, maybe the connection is gone. But here's the truth. Real love isn't supposed to stay at this crazy roller coaster level forever. It's meant to calm down into something steady and safe eventually. But now for others, when feels more like calm and peace. There's no games, there's no drama. And that's what a secure attachment feels like. But if you're used to the chaos of emotional highs and lows, from your childhood subconsciously and then growing up, you're reinforcing that pattern, calm feels kind of boring. That's what I hear a lot of from my clients when they actually start to heal and learning to connect to people who are actually more secure. It feels very it feels boring. That's what they often say, because it's unfamiliar. Or worse, like something is wrong, often waiting for the shoe to drop. Have you ever heard, why don't I feel obsessed with them? Is love supposed to be more passionate, more exciting? Maybe they're not the one if I don't feel like fireworks 24/7. And if that sounds familiar, it's not that the calm is boring. It's just your brain is so used to the drama that it doesn't know how to handle stability. So if you grew up with inconsistent love, for example, like sometimes people showed up for you and sometimes they didn't, your brain has then learned to associate emotional chaos with love, right? So when you're in a calm, healthy relationship, your brain thinks like, wait, what? Where's the drama? This feels strange. And you're like, this can't be real. This can't be it. This is boring. This is not it. This is not amazing. This is not fulfilling. So I'm sure you've noticed people only say when you know after the fact. They are looking back on their happy relationship and convincing themselves they always knew. Let me tell you, let's be real for a second here. They've probably had doubts too at some point. And either they're going to say this during their honeymoon when everything feels amazing and, they're really convinced, or they knew after all of this, uncertainty phase or ups and downs, and they're just, after they had the challenges too, and now they're just, looking back, on their journey, and they just don't post about that part on Instagram, right? So don't believe everything you see. And don't even get me started on movies, rom-coms, feeding us everything. The love should be perfect, and the love should be this hyper romanticized romantic vision of they make everything seem like, love should be instant and easy and all consuming, and that you just have this moment of realization that it's the one, and that love is just so extreme, but it's not, that doubt is having doubts and having already questions about your partner is normal. And real love and real connection is built over time, and it's not always consistent. And sometimes you can have doubts after 10 years or 3 years or a few days, and that's normal too. There's no normal. It's messy and it's layered, and sometimes it's like, do I know today? Maybe 75%, maybe 30% today, but I'm choosing this person today. And I don't know how I feel in 1 year, 10 years, 30 years, but as long as it feels right today, that's important. So if you're sitting there waiting for some magical knowing moment, let me just say this: you're not broken, and your relationship isn't doomed if it doesn't feel like the fairy tale right away, right? Or if it never will feel like a fairy tale. The real question isn't, do I just know? It's, are we choosing each other when it's messy? Because it's so easy to choose each other when it's perfect. It's like when you have your perfect body, isn't it amazing and easy to love yourself when you feel great, when you have the perfect body, when you're healthy and happy? But how hard is it actually to choose yourself, to be kind to yourself when you gained 3 kilos, when you gained 10 kilos? Let me tell you something embarrassing. I've gained the most amount of weight I've ever gained over the last few years. And that's about hormones, my tablets. There was some stress involved, I guess, as well. Lots of diet changes because I moved to Italy, hint. Plus I moved in with my mother-in-law for was it 8-9 months. But again, I'm not going to blame anyone. I could have chosen differently as well, but it literally happened so gradually I didn't even realize it. I realized it because I didn't weigh myself for ages, and then it hit me when things didn't fit anymore. Showing yourself self-compassion and being kind to yourself and loving to yourself, to your relationship, to your body, to everything. When it's really challenging, that's when it matters the most, but that's also when it's the hardest. So can you do this for your relationship too? And by the way, you can check in the show notes. There's an amazing quiz you can take, and it's all about finding out if it's anxiety or if it's intuition. It's a 3-minute free digital quiz. It's all about relationship anxiety, because anxiety and intuition can very much feel the same if you have relationship anxiety or if you have an anxious attachment style. And this gives you a little bit more clarity where this feeling comes from. And I'm going to link it also, on my Instagram. You can comment under any of my posts and reels the word intuition to get the link directly sent to you on your Instagram if you can't access the link on my show notes. I would love to talk you through some myths that are here really involved, and that maybe telling yourself specifically. Maybe the myth you've been believing is that you're waiting for a sign, right? Something that magically tells you this is it. This is your person, because then you would have the certainty, because then you can feel safe. And then for sure, the future is amazing and you feel safe and reassured, and you can ride with your Prince Charming into the sunset. But here's the truth. Relationships aren't about waiting for some cosmical sign or signal. They're about what you choose to create. So I'll give you an example. When I got into a relationship with my partner, I felt like I was swimming in doubts, right? I never really know how to pronounce the word doubts. I think you don't pronounce the Doubt. Yeah, doubt. I think you don't pronounce it the B. Okay. So again, I was full of doubts. Compared to my old relationship, it was completely different because I used to never have this huge relationship anxiety in my past. It was that beginning, perhaps, when I started going into relationships, but then I never really worried much. I never really thought about the future of my relationship, not in my past relationships. It was more about friendships and colleagues and all of this. But when I went into this new relationship, the one I'm in now, everything was different. So I compared myself a lot of times beginning when I entered this current relationship, to my previous relationship. And I thought, why do I not feel so certain? Why is there so much doubt? Why am I just not sure about us? Like, why am I not sure about my partner? What is it? And I couldn't put my finger on. But looking back, I can see really why this was all happening. I can see that it was because I was before in an anxious dynamic, and both of us were like more similar, let's say, in that way. And we both were more like anxious people and needed a lot of quality time. But again, it didn't work out in the end either, because anxiety doesn't mix well. If we're both kind of leaning towards depression and towards that side, it's not a good combination, let me tell you that. So anyway, but in that sense, I never had this uncertainty. But this time with my partner, who's more avoidant, it really triggered my anxious attachment style. And suddenly I was questioning everything. I felt like a huge red flag. I felt like he was a huge flag. I felt I wasn't good enough. I felt our relationship was very unstable and there was something wrong. And I thought maybe this means we are not meant to be. But the truth was, we were just pushing each other's buttons, and not in a bad way, really. It was more like an invitation for growth. And at that time, of course, it didn't feel like it. It felt terrible. It felt really like a huge struggle. And only because I then decided to make a decision and go all in, and to stop all the doubts and work on myself, it really started to work and to move forward. And that was a huge, huge turning point for myself, for my thought work, and really for our relationship. Because my insecurities, my doubts created, more doubts in my partner too. So the entire time, when I was unsure, my partner was unsure, and then we were both unsure and like feeding our own insecurities here. And the moment Hey, before we continue, I've got an amazing free training I want to share with you. If you've been overthinking your relationships, let me ask you this one question. What if you could wake up in the morning with a deep sense of warmth and confidence, knowing that everything is okay no matter what? This is how it feels for me now. Imagine not feeling on edge when your partner is a little moody or distant, but still believing your future holds amazing possibilities for you. Picture yourself feeling completely secure, knowing you're deeply loved by the people around you and that you've got this no matter what. Even during ups and downs or conflict, you're not spiraling into we're not meant to be or it's over right away. What if your relationship challenges didn't mean you have to question everything anymore? And here's the truth. Overthinking is a habit. The more you overthink, the more your brain believes something is wrong. But your partner isn't the problem here. It's deeper rooted in your past patterns that keep you stuck. And what you're not changing, guess what? You're choosing. So I've been there too, and I know how exhausting it feels. That's why I've created this free mini training to help you break free from overthinking if you choose to. This training is perfect if you've tried everything already, but nothing has worked yet, like therapy, over-consuming podcasts. Are you ready to feel more present and confident in your relationships? Just head over to the show notes or jump over to my Instagram at the Anxious to Secure Coach. and reply the word mini under any of my posts and enjoy the free mini training to stop overthinking your relationships. I decided for myself, you know what, I'm going to go all in. I don't know what the future brings, but if I'm not going to decide to give it my all, at least for 3 months or for X time frame, I will never even know. And if I give it my all now and be very committed for at least, let's say, 3 months, I will never know. And that was the best decision I could have done at that time. And I highly, highly recommend it for you too. If you're in this limbo of, can this work? Can this not work? Is he the one? Is he not the one? Try to go all in for a certain time frame. Myth 2 I want to touch on. Do you ever feel like a relationship should be smooth sailing if it's right? That if you're maybe fighting or hitting roadblocks, it must mean it's not working. Let me share with you something, because conflict is normal. I'm sure you heard this before, and it feels terrible because, of course, conflict feels terrible. Even the best couples have moments of tension, though. And the thing is, what really matters isn't avoiding those rough moments. It's learning how to repair and grow through them. And it's super possible. It's just a skill we've never really learned in school, and I wish we would. And it's all about learning how to fight better, not to avoid it. Or otherwise we end up in toxic fights, or we just walking on eggshells and avoiding them completely. And neither feels right. And for someone with an anxious attachment style, of course, conflict can feel like this huge, terrible threat. It's like your whole nervous system goes on high alert. It's like, oh no. It's like, oh no. Does this mean they're going to leave? Does this mean this is the end of everything? And this is, because you're always looking for signs that there's a threat to the relationship, that they will leave, and you're always looking for proof, and you will always find your proof, right? So conflict doesn't mean the relationship is doomed, though. Because in fact, once you rewire your brain to see conflict as an opportunity to grow together rather than as a sign that it's falling apart, you'll begin to feel much safer in your relationship. And it doesn't happen overnight, but if you start just looking for proof of that, look at your past conflicts and see what were some conflicts, and what have you learned from that. How did it make you stronger? Really, you need to ideally journal down these pieces of evidence. And you'll learn that conflict doesn't lead to separation or maybe divorce, like how it did maybe for your parents. And you will rewire your beliefs and create new beliefs. This connects directly to the myth. When you know. When you believe that love should feel effortless and it should be conflict-free, it can make you doubt the relationship when things get really tough. But the truth is, every relationship really requires work. And it's a myth that relationships should be easy. That's what I used to think when I was constantly fighting with my partner years ago. And just because you have, rough moments or rough patch doesn't mean it's a sign that you're not meant to be. I wish someone would have told me this years ago. And I still don't know if my partner and I are meant to be honest. But at least I'm so proud of how we've grown together and what I've learned from myself as well. And no one can ever take that away from me. And even if we should ever not work out, at least I've learned so much and we had an amazing time together. And another myth I want to touch on here, it's about comparing yourself to other people and relationships, a really big part. You ever find yourself comparing your relationships to others? Like, why does theirs seem so perfect while we are over here are struggling, right? Or maybe you're thinking, why don't I feel like the same spark? They look like they're having like a great time over there. And trust me, I've been there too. I used to scroll through Instagram, social media, see all those super happy, lovely, doubly couples, all these perfectly happy, photos, videos, the guy giving, I don't know, her all of the things, the quality time, the presents, the huge grand gestures for Valentine's Day, while we are here at home not even celebrating Valentine's Day, and all of these things, right? And you might think, what's wrong with us? Why is there, like, why don't I have that? And is this a sign that, I don't know, there's something wrong with us, and should we be happier, and all of this? And that can create so much relationship anxiety. But a huge reason why I used to delete Instagram and Facebook and social media channels a few years ago was because I was overthinking this part of relationships, and I was always then reading into, like, why haven't they, I don't know, liked my post and all of this stuff. And unfortunately, when I started actually, creating my business, I had to go back on social media. But this time I, had already all the tools. I wasn't overthinking anymore. I wasn't comparing myself anymore. And if I was comparing myself, I was actually using it as an inspiration. So this time I already had, had the tools, and I was actually able to reduce my time on social media as well, which is a huge tip I have for anyone who's in this comparison spiral. And also, by the way, comparison is a lie. You're seeing someone else's highlight reel only, not the messy, real moments behind the scenes, right? That's why often on my social media, or even if it's my business, I don't really post many things about my partner, even though I know it would literally sell my business and my courses and my coaching so much better. But I choose not to, because I know that it just can create so much anxiety by me just pretending everything is perfect. Because first of all, I'm not going to show you when we argue or if we have a fight, because that would first of all cross the boundaries of my partner as well. I might be able to feel comfortable eventually to show myself in conflicts, but my partner would never feel comfortable with that. Besides from the fact that he in general doesn't want to be much on social media, so that's another part why I'm not showing much. And I think it's very healthy to not be consumed with lovely, happily relationship pictures, especially if you're in the height of your anxiety. So you don't compare yourself and don't always think everything is perfect over there. Rather, it's completely normal for couples to have even, let's say, air quotes, boring days. So that's why sometimes I just post on stories showing my partner me just being on the couch or just going for a walk, because that's a little bit more normal, a bit more neutral. But anyways, so you're seeing just someone's highlight reel and not the messy side, the real moments behind the scenes. And every couple has their own challenges, even if you think everything is perfect. Some friends of yours might be not even sharing what's actually going on if they ever had doubt, because when I had doubt in my relationship a few years ago, I never shared this with anyone because I felt shame. I felt like people might tell me to leave my relationship or they would judge. So I actually kept everything for myself. And I can imagine other people would do the same. And if you're constantly comparing yourself to others or believing that love should always feel perfect and is easy, you buy easy into this idea. If you're struggling, it must mean there's something wrong. But love, real love, isn't perfect. It's raw, it's messy, it's full of ups and downs. And if you're always measuring your relationship against someone else's perfect vision, it will make you feel like you're falling when you hit those rough patches. And falling is not nice. So instead of comparing, focus on your relationships. Focus on yourself. Ask yourself, what's coming up for me right now? Is it really about my partner? Or is it my attachment that is kind of showing up right now? Is it like anxiety? That's where the magic happens, right? When you stop chasing the idea of a perfect relationship and start building the connection you want. And here's the thing, when you meet someone and boom, the chemistry hits very hard, but you don't get fooled by this initial spark. Sure, the chemistry is fun and exciting, but it's not the full picture of a healthy relationship, as I mentioned. Over time, the initial intensity fades after the honeymoon phase, latest, if you had one, and you might start questioning if this is the right person, if you're relying only on the feeling of the chemistry to define if it's right, and you'll find yourself in a cycle of panic and second guessing. The real connection, you'll never really know if this is real. It's built on trust and shared values and these little moments and mutual effort, and not just the rush of the butterflies. Because in the end, there's so much more than just this initial chemistry and these highs. Hey, before we continue, I've got an amazing free training I want to share with you. If you've been overthinking your relationships, imagine not feeling on edge when your partner is a little moody or distant. Even during ups and downs or conflict, you're not spiraling into we're not meant to be or it's over. What if your relationship challenges didn't mean you have to question everything anymore? And here's the truth, overthinking is a habit. The more you overthink, the more your brain believes something is wrong. But your partner isn't the problem here. It's rooted in your past patterns that keep you stuck, and what you're not changing, you're choosing. This training is perfect if you've tried everything already, but nothing has worked yet. Are you ready to feel more present and confident in your relationships? Just head over to the show notes or jump over to my Instagram at the Anxious to Secure Coach and reply the word mini under any of my posts and enjoy the free mini training to stop overthinking your relationships. And a really, really powerful way I think of it is also like the whole myth, the whole thing about when you know is a myth. It's also like a trap. Like it's when you're setting yourself up for anxiety every time when things are not perfect. So when you fight, you think right away, we shouldn't fight. When you see this overly extreme huge Valentine's gesture from someone on Instagram, and your partner never gives you anything for Valentine's, you might think, oh, you're not good enough, or you're not deserving, or my partner is not the one. Or when your friend got engaged and she said she knew from the moment she laid eyes on her partner the first time that he was the one. And because you never felt this intense moment, you never had this moment of you knew, especially not right at the moment, and you are still, maybe you are already like 7 years into a marriage and you still sometimes have doubts because things are just not perfect. So you're setting yourself up just every time for failure. Real love is just built over time. Also, real love is never black and white. You can be married for 10 years and still have doubts and end up together and have realized he was the one in the end after being married for 60 years. And you can also have never doubts and end up 40 years together later on. And suddenly it turns out your partner betrayed you the entire time. You just don't know. Like doubt is just an emotion. So stop waiting for the magical moment. Start looking for the small things that actually matter. What matters is building really self-trust. Trust that you can handle any challenge ahead. Trust that no matter what, you will be there for yourself. To cheer yourself on and not to tell yourself you should have known better, or you're not good enough or worthless, or that it's too late now to find someone else when things turn out differently than you expected. Be your own cheerleader, that you will be always there for yourself when things are rough. That is really, really important. And I just want to leave you with a few questions in the end that might give you a little bit clarity if you're still not sure yet. So instead of asking yourself, like, if he's the one, or if she's the one, or they're the one, ask yourself this. What does feeling safe in this relationship really look like for me? What little things can we both do to build trust today? And little tip, trust comes from action. Watch for, how you will both show up consistently each day. And when you're feeling uncertain, ask yourself this: am I focusing on what I should feel instead of what I actually feel? And what qualities do I value in my partner the most? And which ones are non-negotiables? And do those qualities show up in my partner or in my relationship right now? And little tip again, forget the shoulds. Never should on anyone, especially not on your partner, on yourself, or on your relationship. And real love doesn't look like anyone else's timeline. And a few more questions you can ask yourself. Can I talk openly about my fears and doubts with my partner? Chemistry is great, but if they, don't listen and they don't respect you, that is kind of a little bit of a challenge here that you might want to address. And when things get tough, ask yourself, is this a moment where we need to have a real honest conversation? Talk it out. Relationships go through waves. If things feel off, it doesn't mean it's over. It just means it's time to, first of all, connect to yourself and then connect to your partner, and to be brave, honest about that. Is your anxious attachment style speaking here? And is this fear talking, or how can I focus on the real things I know about the relationship instead of overthinking the what ifs all the time? And this reframe will really change everything for you. I think Sarah from You Love and You Learn has talked about this the first time when I heard this, and this is super, super powerful. If you ignore all the questions above, this is the most powerful question you can ask yourself. So instead of asking yourself, is this person the right person for you? Is the person the one? Is this person the one for your life? Try to ask yourself this. Is this person the right person for you right now? Because when you focus on the present, you get to enjoy the relationship as it is, because you never know what might happen in the future. You're not going to force it, trying to, picture some perfect future. You're not going to try to predict the future. You're not going to try and control something that's outside of your control. You don't need to have all the answers right now. And your feelings might change over time as well, or your partner's, and that's okay. It's totally okay. You're safe. Your relationships are about choosing each other moment by moment and letting go of control and not clinging onto things you can't control. It takes the pressure off and allows you to enjoy what you have right now, to actually live in the relationship you are having right now without feeling like it has to live up to some magical fairy tale vision. And I hope this was helpful. I hope I could break some myths today. I would love to know your thoughts about this episode, and I'll see you in the next episode. And by the way, I'm going to link some amazing free resources in the show notes. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for being with me here today. Remember, change in your relationship starts with you. Thought by thought, action by action, and now episode by episode. If you love this episode and want to give me a virtual high five, please give me a 5-star rating wherever you're listening from. It really helps me to boost this podcast a little bit higher in the ranking, so I can help even more people just like you. And even share it with one more person you think would really benefit from this episode. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.